Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing great. Let's get rolling on tonight's stream. Let me let's shut off some volume so you don't have to listen to me twice. Tonight I have a special guest. We're going to wait a little bit as everyone's coming on over from Trey's stream. Trey, Axanar Comics. Hopefully you guys are all subscribed to Axanar Comics since it is a great stream. Trey is back at it. Let's say hi to everyone. Scott Voigt, Jay from Tesla, all the usuals. Dave G Sound, you guys. Miss Karen B, are you new? Am I being forgetful? C13R, that is. I think you're new here. We got FFI editor. We got Don Myers. Jerry, how are you doing, Jerry? No, you didn't miss it, Jesse. We are going strong. Hope everyone's doing great. There's Bluntman is there, the usual, and Dale Simpson has his caps lock on. So, how are you, my friend? Everyone knows I love Dale. Dale is a dear friend who is the number one of the USS Ares Starfleet International chapter that we are launching, and along with my number two, Paul Osborne, and then Trey Dragonlaw. We're drag Trey's ass into this. So I hope everyone is doing great. Let's looks like slowly people are beaming over. I'm just going to remind everyone to sign up for the Axanar newsletter because we got some really cool stuff happening, some good stuff happening that we want to share, especially in the Ares Studio store with all the good Axanar swag. So let's say hi to everyone. Darren is here. Okay. Looks good. Let's see how our stream is doing. Looks like we're good on Facebook. Right. We're in the Axanar fan group. We should actually share that to the let's share that to the Star Trek group, huh? How's that? All right. Yes, and I've got to make sure I watch Astartes after this. My nephew Dalton's going to kill me if I don't. All right. We hit the 42 mark, so I think this is a good time to start. So tonight I've got a special guest. I know what guest isn't special, right? I say that all the time. But and we hit 50. So there we go. So tonight we got Mark Stephen Grove. Who is a friend, been a friend for a few years now. And he was part of our shoot in October. And he's a filmmaker himself. So he's going to share some things about his new movie that he's working on. And we'll talk a little bit about how we're all going to help him with that movie. And here he is, my friend, Mark Stephen Grove. Mark, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. A nice little backdrop there. Is this your office?
It is. That's all my Flash Gordon stuff back there. I'm a Flash Gordon nut job.
Oh, are you really? Well, that explains.
I really am.
That explains. Yeah, that explains. Dragons and aliens, aliens and dragons.
That's right. You can say it either way, can't you?
I guess you can. I know which way you're supposed to say it. Aliens and dragons.
It's aliens and dragons. Yeah.
All right. Everyone's like aliens and dragons. That sounds like fun. And it is fun. This is but Mark. So first of all, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and. You're over there you're in Denver or you're near Denver? Where are you?
I'm in Lakewood, Colorado, which is really close to Denver. Yeah.
Okay. I know that well. And tell everyone what you do.
Well, I'm a career filmmaker and martial artist. They kind of don't seem like they go together, but they actually do. I started doing martial arts in 1972, and at the age of 17, opened my first school. So I have never worked for anybody else. I've always worked for myself.
Good for you.
And then a few years into that, I was training people all around the world, and then I got an opportunity to break into the film business. And I was like, this is the next step for me, because I train in the art of ninjutsu, which doesn't really have a lot of competitions or outlets like a typical martial art does. And so having a film outlet seemed like, wow, that could be a great thing, you know. And so I hooked up with a David Carradine's stunt double,
Oh,
and
wow.
he pulled me into the business, and everybody of course told me, you can't get in the film business, that's completely impossible. And in 3 months I had my SAG card. I was
Wow.
in and ready to go,
Wow.
and I've
Very.
been doing it ever since, you know.
So when did you get in the film business?
You know, that was 89 when I started delving into it, and I was like, oh, and I was kind of toying with it. And then in 90 is when I met Lars Lundgren, who was the stunt guy from Sweden, actually. And so obviously great little, he sounded like the Swedish chef most of the time. Whenever I'd say ninja, he'd say ninja, which was very funny. But yeah, he pulled me in, and I started in that arena, and and then I got into so many other things in the process.
Such as?
Well, you know, I started, you know, just on the set. We had a scene where a girl got shot in the back of the head, and her blood blew out all over the windshield. And I set up that explosive, you know, to do that. But then there was a scene following where the guy was carrying her into the house, and they went, "Oh my goodness, we're going to see her face, and there's no wound." And so I quickly, you know, manufactured out of latex and toilet paper and whatever else I could think of, an exit wound, which actually turned out quite nice. I have photos of it. I'll have to share with you sometime. And then I was like, wow, this is incredible. So I started delving into the makeup field. So I started doing prosthetic makeup, and now I do that extensively.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good to know. Well, because we'll make sure we
Yeah.
have you out when we do the
We'll-
Andorians.
We'll use that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So someone mentioned here when you said ninjutsu, someone said shogi.
Yeah, Sho Kosugi, what can you do? I mean, he really was an icon in the film business in the 80s. He really took advantage of the ninja boom, which is kind of really when the ninja thing became a little goofy, because, you know, it's so serious to me. And then, of course, you know, back then I'm training people. I'm so excited. You know, it's 1983. I went from my first school. Everything's great. And then all of a sudden Ninja Turtles and all these things start coming out, and it becomes a big joke, you know, disappearing in a puff of smoke and all the silliness. And so that image has kind of lasted with people. So the art itself is kind of seen a little silly, a little over the top, but it's really not that way at all.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because I mean, early on, I read Stephen Hayes books. I mean, I have my original copies up there of all my Stephen Hayes books, and I'm a huge fan of Eric Luspetter's Ninja series.
Oh yeah, the Ninja series.
Love it. I mean, it's just and that was optioned for his book. His first book was optioned for a movie. Like before the whole ninja nonsense started.
Yeah.
His book was optioned, and his book is a serious look at it all. I mean, serious, and
yeah,
there's a little mysticism in it, but it's still
a touch. Yeah, I think his character's name was Nicholas Lanier or something like that, right? Isn't that right?
Exactly.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, really nice, really nice.
It was a great. I mean, all of them, and I know I just downloaded. He just came out with a couple short stories in the series.
Yeah.
But I've got. As a matter of fact, you can see it here. If you can see it here. Up there at top row, I have the first editions of all his books. Ninja,
like Miko and all
Light
those.
Ninja, Kaisho, Second Skin, Floating City. I've got them all.
Yeah, they're good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah.
He's a great writer, and it's really good stuff. But what happened was it got optioned, and then all the silly ninja stuff started happening.
Yeah.
And they never made it, because at that point, the whole thing was kind of ruined. Right.
It really was, you know, I mean, it was hard to go backwards, because everybody was absorbing that so much. They loved it. And so when the audience is buying what they're doing, they don't want to try anything else. They want to stick to the plan, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of silliness, but I mean, some of them tried to touch on some of the, you know, like the cooler stuff of the art, but they always came up short. You know, it was always like wearing a black uniform in the middle of the day, running through that, you know, it was just crazy. You're like, why are you wearing that?
Yeah. Well, I think it finally got its due in Last Samurai, right?
Yeah, they did do quite a bit of stuff in that, and you know, it was a short scene, but it definitely had a tremendous impact.
Yeah, I thought it was, and now you see anything in a movie that touches on ninjutsu, and you're like, but that one I was like, good.
You know what made ninja so valid? Obviously, the ninja boom was perfect. But what made ninja so great as villains was you could have like 10 stunt people play an entire army of ninja because they just kept coming.
Yeah.
And the other thing was heroes could kill ninja just like they can kill zombies or anything else because they're faceless. So therefore the humanity isn't there. You can just like slay them left and right because you're not really tapping into who they are, you know?
Right. There, and I remember when I first lived in Atlanta, back 2009, that era, there was a school over here on Jimmy Carter Boulevard.
I think that was Bud Malmstrom's school.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was like on the other side of town from me, or else I would have, I would have gone to class. But because I was interested, I was really interested at that time, especially in Aikido, because my roots are in judo. I took judo.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned from when I was like, I think
that's some
I
of the first stuff I learned.
6 years old.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff I started with in the mid 1970s. Was really the throwing aspect was a huge aspect of what I was doing back then too, which really set the standard for being able to, really unbalance and disrupt an opponent's energy.
Yeah, and it kind of hit me like Aikido it seems to be, maybe is the right word. Seems to be like the natural progression of judo.
Maybe it's always hard. I'm like really strange with what I think of like the newer arts, meaning the do arts, judo, aikido, all those things, because they have that sport application. But a lot of times the arts require the opponent to fight with the same style, and so somebody in aikido comes running at you like an aikidoist would. Whereas if you saw like an aikidoist versus a boxer or a judoka against karate, it would change things. And so because it's a sport, they always like match equally. And so therefore a lot of people see like, oh, that's the most innovative art. But when you really look at it, it's not as valid against people who don't fight with the same type of energy the attackers do.
Right. Yeah, I see that. Well,
which makes sense because it's kind of sport oriented,
Well, and also, yeah, it is. It's also interesting that when you get down to what Bruce Lee was doing, I mean, he was kind of synthesizing everything and trying to teach. I mean, and I said this the other day, when I was coaching men's volleyball at throughout the time, I coached at USC and I coached with the national team. But when I would give talks or I'd give coaches clinics, I would always quote Bruce Lee, because when we talked about who our coaching mentors were, I said, well, I have two coaching, people that I look to, and one was John Wooden, the famous UCLA basketball coach. But the other is Bruce Lee, because his philosophy of absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add something uniquely your own. That applies to everything in life, really, right? But it was a great coaching mantra that you could communicate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake that though for try a little bit of everything, and I really think that in itself can be dangerous, because that make it seem like you have a large pool of knowledge, but it's really only 2 inches deep. And so a lot of people don't delve. You have to delve into the whatever it is you're doing, and learn enough of it to really make it valid. So when Bruce Lee comes from an extensive set of kung fu training, it's easy for him to do that. When a person who's just starting tries to do a little bit of everything, I think it kind of like is a negative dynamic. It's really a hard thing to explain, but you have to have a foundation before you can really become eclectic.
I think that's a great point. Yes, absolutely. And in the movie industry, you did mostly stunts, fight choreography.
Well, it's really funny because I wanted to be an actor, and I am. I act extensively. That's not really. I shouldn't say I wanted to be. I am. But when I started, it was like that was my goal, and so I did a couple shows. Played a cowboy and all these things in these westerns, but then it evolved where all of a sudden when I started doing some fight stuff, and I really didn't understand fight choreography for the film industry as much as I understood martial arts, but my art really adapted well because of the fluidity and exchange of techniques. So it sort of adapted, and I did a few films where I was working with stunt coordinators, and they said, "Hey, I'm gonna have you do these fights." They had me do it, and the next thing I knew, they were like calling on me, like, "Hey, let's build something and help me." And all of a sudden, I started getting pulled into the fight world, and so I sort of that was my first foray really into gaining some notoriety. and then it evolves from there. But yeah, my career has been all over the place. But in the film business, you almost have to be eclectic, kind of like the Bruce Lee dynamic. When somebody says, "I am just this," in the independent industry, especially, you find yourself not working. And so having an ability in many fields oftentimes lends itself to more work. And then once you're on set doing that, you might get called upon to do something else you're skilled at. Kind of like we talked about a second ago, where I did action on yours, I'm going to fall around. And you went, "Oh, you do makeup too?" And the first thing in your mind is, let's use that. And I think that was the valid approach. But that was actually very ninja. Because when I got in the business, I thought, wow, ninja do disguise. And I was already well versed in disguise. And so it's like, oh, I'll use that for the film business, for makeup. And then I did pyrotechnics. I knew how to make all the flash devices. And I was like, oh, I'm going to become a pyro. I was going to become a pyrotechnician, and so I legally became that. And so really the ninja art sort of evolved into it. And ninja has a technique called the immersion into the illusion, which is where you become the character you're pretending to be as a spy. And I was like, that's acting. And so it really sort of like played itself in. So really, I kind of view my energy in the film industry the same as I do in ninjutsu. It's like I adapt and change to what's needed.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's great. I mean, you have such a great grounding in so many aspects. So tell us about when you started making your own films.
Well, you know, in 1998, I had just done the Three Ninjas movies, fighting Hulk Hogan and things like that. Really fun stuff. And the company that was involved thought, wow, he did really good. And I started talking to a lot of people in LA because of those connections. And it worked out where I was going to get a job in LA and working like alongside the people who do Masked Rider and all the Power Rangers, all that kind of thing. And then that very year, my little boy was born with brain injuries. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And he's like 21 now, 22. And he has like the capacity of a 4 or 5 year old, you know. So I had to take care of him full time. So back then it was like I had a choice. Do I move and follow my career, or do I take care of my child? And of course, the answer is take care of your child. And family was all in Colorado. So I said, I'm going to stay here. So then in 99, I had a buddy call me and say, hey, we need a stunt coordinator for this movie. And I was like, okay, because I kind of thought, you know, I'm kind of done because not being able to move and grow. And as events unfolded, they ended up firing the director, and the producer goes, look, I want you to direct this $1 million film for me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. So 99, I'm directing my first $1 million film. And sort of bizarre, it was kind of like, this is where I need to be. But before that, I have to digress a bit, because in 1994, I wrote my first screenplay. And days after finishing it, I sold it for $20,000.
Wow.
Which was like, how do you do that, right? I mean, but I think that's also that ninja thing. It's like, you know, you kind of like, it's kind of like the power of intention. And I sort of pushed that, and I sold it. And then I started, the production company sent me to LA to learn how to, like, you know, to do all sorts of things with film, especially the financing side and things like that. And so I learned all about that. So I was really delving into that behind the scenes stuff before that. But having that opportunity in 99, which nobody gets, who gets to direct $1 million film? Yeah, I mean, it's just insane. And, you know, I don't think I was ready. As a matter of fact, I honestly say I wasn't ready, you know, learning to do good transitions between scenes and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But the dynamic was it was trial by fire. And I think in situations like that, you're either tempered by the experience or you're consumed, one or the other. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And so that's what I've been doing ever since.
Say hello to, there's Crystal.
All right, the better half.
She brought me a gin and tonic.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. So go ahead. Go ahead. So, how many movies now have you?
Well, you know, after that, I did a bunch in between that 99, and then in 2005, I did a Lionsgate picture called The Shadow Walkers. Again, another low budget film. That was really, again, just an amazing thing to do. It's like, you know, you get a script and you're like, oh, I don't really like this. But at the same time, I was producing a movie called The Sensei with Diana Lee Inosanto, you know, Bruce Lee's protege, Dan Inosanto, his daughter. And so the Bruce Lee family type movie. So I produced a movie called The Sensei, which was amazing. I was doing it at the exact same time. So I was filming one for multiple hours, and then I was traveling for 4 hours to get to the set of another. to do that, and then I would do that all night, and then I would come back the next day.
You're sick,
And
man.
I did that for multiple days. But
Wow.
after that, it was sort of like, hey, what's next? And so I just started going one after the other, and doing these independent features. And most of my films really do well overseas, and so a lot of times they don't get a lot of notoriety here, but I'll get some overseas. But what was really funny was that one that I did in '99. We gave it to a sales agent. Hey, let's sell this movie. And that sales agent took it for, I think, 3 years, and we didn't really see much, response. But then decided, you know what, let's do this ourselves. So we started our own distribution company and started going to the American film market and markets like that. And so I started learning about international sales. And so for going on 16 markets, 16 years, you end up becoming quite good at understanding how the market works and who buys what and what countries do this. So it enabled me to start doing something that I thought to be very wise, because a lot of independent filmmakers just decide, they write a script and go, hey, I'm going to make this movie because I want to. And then when they can't sell it, they're like, oh, the industry sucks and the sales agents and this and that. But the real question is, who asked you to make that movie? Nobody. You just decided on your own that it was a valid movie to make. And of course, your mother likes it, but that's about it. And so what I started doing was I started inquiring with the different buyers around the world. I said, if I made, I would come up with a concept, said, if I made this, is this something you would buy? And if 7 out of 10 of them said yes, I was like, okay, I'm onto something. But if only 2 of them did, I would just nix that idea. That idea would go away. Whereas most filmmakers make it and then try and figure out how to sell it. And I kind of go backwards now. I'm like, how do I make
that
this?
idea.
And so it's more of like just a wisdom of the journey. You only gain that by going on the path. By learning the first time. When the sales agent didn't sell my movie well, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. I feel like I can do this myself.
Gotcha. So, all right. So tell us then about Aliens and Dragons.
Well, as I said, I've made a few movies, but all of them had one thing in common. That was I brought in an angel investor, an outside investor, and they would put in money and say, hey, you're in charge of the creative. You do your thing. And then I would do it. And inevitably, through the process, these people who were not experienced in film would all of a sudden get dreams of grandeur as if they were. And so by the time you're in editing or trying to post, they have our creative things that they want to put into it that you can't really stop them because they're the money. And so for the first time, I said, you know what, I'm going to do Aliens and Dragons on my own. So I took my team, which consists of a great stunt team, special effects, props, actors, and I trained them all. And I said, let's make a movie. And so we did it with just out of our pockets. And I said, I want to do this one called Aliens and Dragons. Well, I had approached this idea with buyers after I made a movie called Gathering of Heroes, which did very well around the world. That was all straight fantasy. That was like Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And then I made one called Star Raiders with Casper Van Dien, which was all sci-fi.
Now, how did you get Casper Van Dien?
Very funny. You call him up and you say, here's a script. And so again, the backwards channel of this is really the bad part, because I when you're an independent filmmaker, you have to kind of like break the rules. Now, typically, you submit it to an agent. The agent usually decides whether or not they want their client to even do it. And a movie like my Star Raiders movie, there was no way Casper Van Dien, his agent, would take it to him, because his agent would be like, hey, there's not enough money here for you.
Right.
Because he's worth more. And so what I did was, with my connections, got it directly into his hands, and he read it. And he's like, oh, I want to do this. And so then when I approached his agent, I said, well, he already said he wants to do it.
Right, of course.
And so,
he's
so the agent could not. And so now, and Casper, of course, is still very expensive. He's a very fun, but that was supposed to be my tongue-in-cheek, homage to like 1980s Flash Gordon and so on and so forth. I was trying to have a little fun. And I actually wrote that movie in 9th grade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wrote it then, and so when I made it, I tried to make it from the perspective of that 9th grade person, which made it super cheesy, but it's what I wanted to do. Right. And the neat part was after that, Riff Tracks called me and said, hey, we want this movie. We normally take older movies, but we want this one right now.
Now, who called you?
Riff Tracks, the Mystery Science Theater guys. And so they re-released the movie with their silly commentary around in 750 theaters, around the country.
Oh,
And I went to the premiere in Nashville, and so I was in the audience while it was being filmed in front of a live audience where they were playing it. It was the funnest thing because they're making fun of it. A lot of filmmakers would say, "Hey, what's that all about? Making fun of your movie? Wouldn't that offend you?" You're like, absolutely not. That was the whole point of the movie, was it was supposed to be silly, things like that.
yeah,
So if they
right.
got it, they got it, and I was happy with that. But
It's
then
homage.
Aliens Dragons was kind of like, hey, I want to combine two, because my company is Fusion Factory Films, and the whole dynamic is to fuse genres.
Right.
And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to mix this up.
Well, and it's also, now the thing I love about what I've seen so far of Aliens and Dragons is, now, I mean, you're at your roots. You're in front of a wall of Flash Gordon stuff. You're basically doing Flash Gordon.
Yeah, that kind of idea. Yeah, those kinds of characters, very retro.
I mean, you could easily do this in black and white and totally get away with it.
Well, I actually thought about that. When I was looking at the film originally, it starts out in this spaceship that you have on screen now, and so I built it like a 1930s rocket ship from the old Buster Crabbe shows.
Right,
and,
that's exactly what it looks like.
That was the dynamic, and so let's do this. And so the show starts out obviously in space, and we're flying from a bad guy, and he's chasing us, shooting lasers at us, and we make a jump away from him, and we end up going into towards a planet that's going to take us into the fantasy world. And so I was originally going to start the movie in black and white, like a black and white dynamic, and draw it in. And artistically, I thought that is really sound. However, in talking to the various distributors around the country, they said, look, if you do black and white, if it starts out black and white, people are going to think it's black and white, and they're going to change the channel. And so they said, so we're not going to stop you from doing it, but we're going to tell you it's going to dramatically inhibit your viewership. And so I decided not to. But I thought about it, because I really would have liked to have done it as an artist. Yes.
Dude,
as a
it's
business
Captain
person.
Proton
No.
from Star Trek Voyager.
Exactly. That was the dynamic, and I just wanted that. And the actual little rocket ship is amazing, and yeah, it was just fun to make. And so it's funny how I design things like this, because I literally, the sketches you see before you, I just jump on a pad of paper and I go, here's what I want to do, and I want to make this and this and this, and then I go out to my team and I go, here's what we need to do, and we're like, how are we going to afford to do this? You know what? Get me that pile of wood over there, and this and that, and the hacksaws start going, and power drills, and so on and so forth. The next thing you know, you have this fun little set that was
awesome.
In the show is quite awesome. It really is.
No,
it really is.
It totally gets the feel of the Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon serials from the 30s, right? It totally channel.
Yeah, that's the goal. At the end of the day, it's really just a matter of going back to those childhood roots where I used to go into the theater and just sit for hours and watch. I actually saw Flash Gordon in the theater 80 times. Oh my God. Which is weird. I was actually
were you working
back then? No, but I was having a hard time in life, and I ended up being homeless for a year. And he became kind of like what I wanted to be. I was like, I want to be Flash Gordon, and so I found solace in this movie. It sort of gave me that hope, and so it really attached itself to me. And since then, I've become really good friends with Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon, and Melody Anderson. So we're all friends, and I talk to him often, and I can't.
We met Sam because Crystal was a guest at Modesto Comic-Con in 2016.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and so
Sam
it was
great.
It was Sam Jones. There were four guests. Crystal, some guy who was like in Aliens. He was one of the Marines in Aliens, I think.
Oh, right.
And then Sam, and then Doug Jones.
Yeah, Doug Jones is great too. I had dinner with him not that long ago in Wyoming, strangely enough.
Oh, yeah. So Sam's awesome. Sam is he's great, man.
Yeah, but it's kind of like going back to those days where you're sort of like, there's a time in your life where you're in the backyard as a kid and you pick up a stick, and that stick is a rocket ship, and you're running around the backyard with that stick flying, and then somewhere along the line, that stick becomes a stick, and you've lost that creativity. You're like, oh, it's a stick, and you grow out of that ability to imagine the stick as a rocket ship. And I've just always tried to envision my life as, don't forget the stick can be a rocket ship. And so kind of like this set kind of like proves it. It's like, whatever I have, I'm going to turn it into what I can see in my head.
Gotcha. Oh, as a matter of fact, I see that Shadow Walkers is available once again.
Yeah, it just re-released, which was really bizarre. After all these years, it came out again with another company bought the DVD rights, and
that's cool.
There it is. Yeah,
that's
I think it's like $5.99 too. But the fact that it's out again, that thrills me that somebody else bought it again.
That's great. So, yeah, and so your philosophy on making movies is fascinating, and it's interesting. In that, you basically told me, look, why make a movie for $1 million and struggle to break even when you can make a movie for $100,000 and
Right. Well, here's the basic philosophy that, you go out there as a sales agent and you start seeing what the buyers will pay, like from the middle ground to the high ground, per region, what China pays for it, Japan, UK, so on and so forth. And you start looking at that and you start adding up the numbers. And so even if you do relatively well and you're like, ooh, that's in the 300,000 or the 500,000 or the 600,000, that's like where you're going to start making your money.
Right.
But the problem is if you've spent 500 to make the movie, there's a really good chance you're going to lose all of your money. You're not going to make any profit. So even if you spend $1 million, the chances are you're going to make that $300,000 to $600,000. That's literally what it is. And see, when I started, it was different. So let me explain. I would take a movie to the market, and Germany would come in and say, "We want to buy theatrical rights." And you'd say, "Okay," and they would pay you a pile of money for the theatrical rights for your movie. Another company from Germany would come in and say, "We want the cable rights," and they would pay. And then another one would come in, "We want the DVD rights," and they would pay. And sometimes it would be the same company, but oftentimes it was split up. So in one country, you'd make 3 to 6 sales. Well, now it is one company comes in, they offer you one amount, and it's for all rights for all things forever. They're like, "We want it," And when I say forever, usually, a 7-year deal is what they want. You try and get them to do a 3. Because you'd like to be able to re-release it again,
right?
So on and so forth. But it's a nightmare. So now there's less money even than back then, and that was when I edited my first film on film, like on a flatbed, cutting film. Jeez. And I did that in a basement, yeah. And I shot my first films on 8mm when I was a kid. It's like I've always had an affinity towards the business. I created my first dragon puppet back then, full size, creature.
Oh, so
my
God.
Idea. I know, isn't that silly? But the idea is that now, if you want to sell something to an independent person, everybody, of course, in a film says, "I want to be paid." You know that more than anybody else. I mean, it's like it's valid, and they deserve it. So, but it's a matter of if I'm going to make a tennis shoe and I want to compete with Nike, and I say I'm making it all in America, and I send it out there and I make it. Now, each shoe is $3,000 for you to buy as a consumer. In order for me to make money, I got to sell you a $6,000 pair of shoes.
Right.
Now, when I can have a giant fortress in some place making, in some other country making the shoes, whatever the case, but yeah, I can reduce that. But filmmaking is no different. Everybody assumes that you're making movies, so there's tremendous amounts of money, and there isn't. It's like it's just like anything. So in order to make a profit, you have to keep the budget to a certain point.
Right.
And if you can't do that, it fails, and you can't do it again. So it's a crazy world.
Well, it's fat. And how's the coronavirus changing the entertainment industry? I mean, let's get past let's get past the devastation part. I mean, what we need to right now, what I've been thinking the last week, what I've been thinking is, all right, it delayed our shoot in LA. Okay. I'm not worried about that. We'll get that shoot done. Right. And
exactly.
Maybe it moves to Atlanta. I don't know, but we'll get that shoot done. What I'm thinking is, okay, what do we need to do differently? I mean, no one's making anything, and the film industry is not going to get going again until at best for Q4 this year. At best.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's not coming back in Q2, and it's not. We're in Q2. It ain't coming back in Q3 either. They just canceled San Diego Comic-Con. So
exactly.
Right. So I'm like, what can we do? So for our little project, Axanar, we came up with this idea called War Stories, and the idea is that we're going to have stuff on deck ready for actors to shoot, and it is literally going to be them on our set talking into the monitor, writing a letter back home like you would do in Star Trek. Right?
Oh,
you don't write a letter; you record it and send it back home.
You bet.
I've got famous science fiction writers writing the stories.
That's good.
Right? It's like 5-minute max. Like this is And so the actor can learn their lines, and we can go in and we can shoot 8 of these in a day, and we really in one day we shoot this project called War Stories, and we release it online, and we do it as soon as we can get into the studio, right? As soon as we can get 4 or 5 people in the same room, and it be kosher. So that was my idea. But now I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, so what is the film industry going to need? And I'm not sure that the studio system is capable or nimble enough to do what is actually going to be needed in the entertainment industry right now.
Yeah.
This is where what we're doing and what Aries Studios is about is potentially better suited to create content than a big movie studio.
Well, you know what happens is those movie studios, because they're big, they have big money, which means they have big lawsuits. And so to put any of their people in danger is like negatory. It's like that's not going to happen. And they're not going to put themselves in that position. Whereas the independent filmmaker might be like, hey, me and my 6 buddies are going to go make this movie, and we're going to risk our health and safety.
How does this affect your marketplace? So that's it. Because what I'm getting at is, I think you and what you're doing in your marketplace is going to expand exponentially because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, again, that's the same thing. Independent film, I think, might have more of a little window, a teeny window. However, I will tell you that a lot of those studios have films that they've already shot that they were planning on later releases that they might accelerate or they might push back. You never know what they're going to do. But the neat thing is I wanted to release early, 2021. I might push mine. It might not come then. Simply because of all the companies getting back into things, because normally it goes to markets, Berlin and South by Southwest and AFM, and it goes to those markets to sell to those people. So you've got to get it into those worlds before it gets out into the world. And so I still have the same issues as a lot of people. I might be able to do some sales myself, which I'm skilled at. I was just hoping not to, because I wanted to move on to making my next picture rather than selling this one.
So this film is not sold yet. Is that what
No, I have, but you would not believe the interest. I think the name itself sort of like got that. But, a lot of these smaller film companies that actually have huge distribution outlets, with Target and Walmart and all the VOD channels, all that stuff, they have those. They've all shown interest, and we've talked extensively about what they would do. Now, a lot of them, again, they're sales agents. And so they have these crazy deals like, okay, we get this percentage, and this is how much money we get, at the markets for advertising costs. And since I was a sales agent, I know all those numbers. And so I was able to call a lot of them like, hey, guys, when you tell me that it costs, $2,800 to screen a movie at the AMC, at AFM, I know you're full of whatever, because that's only $300. And they were like, oh, those numbers. I'm like, yes, I do. So I was able to make conversations that I think I could still get them to do that for me and not charge me those hellacious fees that they charge other filmmakers.
Right.
Can't guarantee it. Can't guarantee it because it's business and they have to make money too. So it's like but we'll see. We'll see how that plays itself out.
Well, this is where I'm going to tell everyone what we're planning and what we're hoping to do. And Mark needs Mark and I have talked about doing a fundraiser to help finish off the film and help and bring it into the Aries Studios. Bring our little group of people and fans and as well as our everything about Aries Studios, our YouTube channel and our marketing and all that, and bring that help Steve out. And so in the very near future, we're going to be launching a fundraiser for Mark, and with the goal of raising $10,000 to finish this project and get it to the point where Mark can take it and then go out and sell it. And that would be a boon to everyone. I mean, this would basically we would bring all of our donors, all of our fans to bear on this little project. And, we haven't done any other projects, but, one of the things I tell people is what I want to do. Look, I'm almost 60 years old. And what I've decided to do is I'm only going to do things I love doing, and I'm only going to do them with people I love, because I'm sick of all the bullshit. I'm sick of all the users, and I'm sick of all the, the nonsense. And so doing things you love doing, with people you love is the best thing. And if you do that, then the money thing resolves itself. You don't have to worry about the money thing.
It does. Well, the neat thing is that I'll have to send you some photos, but all my films come out in other countries too. So I did one, strangely enough, with Malcolm McDowell. I directed Malcolm McDowell and Dean Cain.
Wow.
From Superman. And Malcolm McDowell was great. And I did one called The Black Hole, which was kind of like a supernatural thriller type thing with a girl who kind of delves into her own mind. It was quite fun, though. And so when I saw that movie come out, it was originally called Mind's Eye. And it's one of those movies as it went around the world, it became so many different things. It became The Black Hole and released as The Black Hole. And then it became Quantum Voyage in another country, and it became all these things. And it's so cool when you see my movies out there, even Gathering of Heroes, my fantasy film from here in Japan got released as Thrones, Battle for Something. It was really amazing. And so when you get that Japanese poster and you're like, oh my goodness, and you realize that you're connecting with people all around the world in all these different languages, it's so cool to see what they do with your art and your image and how they sell it, because you really just send them all the key art without the lettering, and they change it to what they want. And sometimes they make all new posters, and it's better than the poster you made. You're so jealous. You're like, oh, right. The Japanese poster is amazing.
Dude, Japanese posters are the best because they have Japanese kanji, right?
Oh, I know it.
I don't know what crazy. They're saying. They could say these guys are a group of pussies, and it would still be like, boom.
Yeah, it says Coca-Cola, yeah. But that's the beautiful part about indie film is, like, when I get it around the world, there's just such a gratification about seeing it and realizing that you've connected with all those people. And most of the people we connect with are fans. Everybody has a desire to see a project have the same level of effects as like a Star Wars movie. Now, many times you can do that. If you have the power to do it, hey, more power to you. But when you have a limited budget and they're still expecting Star Wars level effects, it's kind of tough. And so you're really delivering to a niche audience like myself, who loves a Flash Gordon or who loves sci-fi or fantasy. And it's amazing how fantasy people are insatiable. They really want content, and it's just not there. The Dungeons and Dragons type dynamic. Right. They really want it. Game of Thrones is just proof of that. Those types of shows. They want it so bad, and they'll pay for it. But the neat thing about the fantasy audience is if they don't get that content, they will make the transition to horror or to sci-fi. Whereas a hardcore sci-fi person is sci-fi.
That's it. Exactly. I'm a hardcore sci-fi person, and all I want is sci-fi. I'm really not. I have no interest in horror, and never have.
Yeah. I'm not a big horror guy either. Strange enough, I don't even really like horror.
Neither do I.
But I shouldn't say that. I like things like I like Jaws, or I like Alien. Kind of gets me because it feels more sci-fi than horror. So there's certain ones where I connect with because it sort of like skids on that boundary line.
Yeah.
So I can make that transition. But I've always been a fantasy guy. I love fantasy. I like Beastmaster. And but I also like Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, and those are my movies.
Well, and let me just say that the thing about Aliens and Dragons people need to know that I love is that you are doing unabashed B movie Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers throwback. That's what it is.
On purpose, yeah.
On purpose, yeah. And you appeal to an audience. So your audience is going to be, listen, your demographic is going to be way narrower than Star Wars. However, there's an audience that loves that, and no one does it.
I've seen a lot of people parody this stuff. And so they go out there and they consciously parody it. And I'm the opposite. I take it very seriously. I want it to be like when Beastmaster was made, they didn't go, hey, let's make a shocky, funny movie. They said, well, we're making an awesome fantasy movie, or Space Hunter, or any of those movies. They didn't go out there trying to make it that way. It just became that way. So you have to love it. It has to come from that, like I said, that ninth grade self, and mine does. It's just, I'm still there. And it's funny because on the poster, I have such a dark beard. It's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah, what's that?
Movie magic.
Yeah, I know, huh?
That was just last summer.
Yeah, well, it was. And then we've got, of course, we've also got the, we got this from October when you were on set.
That sure was fun.
Yeah, you were on set, and there you are, and everyone should know. So Mark, I met Mark at Denver Comic Con 2016. right? 2016.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, 2016. And you introduced me to Marty Cove.
Oh yeah, yeah. Marty's a good friend of mine. Yeah, yeah.
He's awesome. We love Martin, and yeah, he was just an absolute gentleman. Crystal and I had dinner with him here last year in Atlanta, and he's a gentleman. And then you're the one that brought James Liu to our
I sure did. Yeah, yeah.
Axanar, and he's just like the perfect Tanaka. So I was very excited about
he was
having him on board. So yeah, it was all good, and you got to be part of the crew on the USS Hercules.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I just had to come out. I thought this is just too fun.
Oh yeah.
Although I do have to say, I did want to go flying over that banister. I really wanted to. I wanted to go flying, and I wanted to crash. I just didn't want to break anything.
Yeah,
especially on myself.
Yeah, Mark comes out of the turbo lift, and the Hercules gets hit, and you get jolted into the banister. But yeah, it would have been a little much to have you fly. We had no mats anyway, so we can't.
That's okay. I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah, I bet you wouldn't have. So all good. Well, listen. What do you, after you finish Aliens and Dragons, which of course, like I said, hopefully we'll be able to help you with. What's next in your, what do you want to do next after that? Do you have a script you want to produce?
Well, I have
your first movie that you are entirely in control of.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a few others.
Maybe at Area Studios.
Yeah, you bet. I have a desire to do one called Cyber Ninja. Silent Steel is the name of that one, and that one is going to be very kind of like Alita Battle Angel. Like a cybernetic transformation where all the cybernetics are on the inside, and we have these crazy fights and big action. I also have already written about 3/4 of Aliens and Dragons 2.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
but if it does well, it should be a no-brainer.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the thing, and again, I may or may not be, stepping on toes here in terms of filmmakers, but a lot of them have dreams of grandeur where they go, hey, oh man, I wrote 3 scripts. It's going to be a trilogy, and it's going to be this, and and they start talking about before they've even made the first film how it's going to be something, and that's how they sell it to everybody. They go, yeah, Netflix is interested in this and that, and it's just always this big snow job. And my thing is, if it sells, I'm going to be ready with another one. If it doesn't, I'll turn that into a novel.
There you go.
I mean, but so I'm not like one of those people before I've ever sold it that I'm making the next one. I don't ever make promises like that. I feel like that's kind of, you put your foot in your mouth, and which is common in the business because we're trying to keep everybody excited, And in the film business, when I'm talking to people, and especially actors and things like that, when they're acting in the show, and they say, "Oh, what's next? Because I want to do another movie with you." And so I never say, "Oh, this is next, and you're going to be the star." It's but the energy of filmmaking wants to make you do that and you mean it. You're not lying. You really have intention, but it's really, you're not in control as much as you want to be. There's a lot of things that you need to, you need to kind of everything needs to fall in place for everything to work right.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, I know it's
sure.
It's a lot of work. It really is. So there you go. Jim Westbrook says Aliens and Dragons full series, 27 seasons. So yeah.
How about 27 episodes?
Yeah,
I'd be good with that.
How about it's like, we've just subscribed to Disney Plus, right? So now we have Disney Plus and we have Netflix. Disney Plus includes Hulu. Okay, so we got rid of our Hulu subscription. We really only picked up one subscription. We netted out. Hulu dropped. We got Disney Plus, which includes Hulu, right? So which is great. And we got obviously Netflix and Amazon. That's it. I'm not getting any other services. I don't need any other services. I don't need CBS All Access or Peacock's free. So that's and I think NBC's Peacock is the way to go. It's free. You get everything you want. Oh, you want no commercials? You'll pay more. Or maybe there's a premium portion of it, but they got to get you in free because no one's going to pay for 8 different services or 10 different services. We cut the cord, for a reason. But anyway, that being said, there's so many services that need content. Now, what I've noticed though is there's a certain level that your content has to be. right?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. I think I have 8 or 12 different movies I represent as a distributor on Amazon right now. Um, and so I do that quite extensively. I know how to get things up and on and how to navigate making the money and so on and so forth. But the problem is even though that those places want your content, to the independent filmmaker, it's kind of like this bizarre swamp of not knowing what it's making. They don't always tell you how much it makes, and so what you make as a filmmaker is fairly insignificant. And even when it could be doing well and you wouldn't know. I mean, it's just so
right.
bizarre. So you have the gratification of having your movie out, which is fantastic because then the people can see it, and that in itself, I guess you can say, is good. But I think a lot of filmmakers get a big head. They go, "My film's on Amazon." You're like, "Yeah, yeah." So is like this piece of junk over here. It's very easy to get it on a channel like that. And so the problem is that if you view that as your success, you're never going to actually financially succeed because you just want like that pat on the back. You want that circle of people patting you saying, "Oh, great job, you're amazing," and you can tell everybody how awesome you are. But it really doesn't equate to money, which is a drag.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think, and the other thing I find with independent filmmakers is that they just don't. Some independent filmmakers can't look at their product and realize what's good and what's bad. You know, you know, listen, I knew a filmmaker. He was, and actually he came out of the porn industry, but he was a friend of Richard Hatch's, and he did a.
So he knows angles.
Yeah, but he
Lord.
did a little movie with Richard Hatch was in it, and Walter Koenig was in it, and he got Malcolm McDowell. So the guy raised like, I don't know, $100,000, and but he paid like Malcolm McDowell $50,000 for one day.
Yeah,
right?
so yeah, I've been there. I know.
Yeah, so so he spent half his budget on Malcolm McDowell for one day, and then he surrounded Malcolm McDowell with his friends, who were, I call them Ren Fair rejects. I mean, it's like
big mistake.
They're from the Ren Fair. They're not actors, and they don't look like actors. And I'm sorry, this is one of the things I said to Jonathan Lane when because I didn't think he put the effort into casting his extras for his bridge scenes in Interlude. I said, look, dude, those people, they don't look like they belong in Starfleet. And if you put them on your bridge doesn't look like it belongs in Starfleet, and it's not going to look like Star Trek. You have to know
there's a certain level.
What is the look that you're going for, and if you're going to get Malcolm McDowell, you better surround him with some freaking actors, right?
Yeah.
And and now who am I to talk? I put myself in my little fan film, and I'm no actor, but you've got to be able to. It's got to be able to pass muster. And I had a friend who did a little film that he was trying to use to sell it, and I was like, look, dude, the name is totally 1980s, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen this before. I mean, yeah, you executed it well, and and you got this guy to do your visual effects, so the visual effects look good, but it's totally derivative. Now, if you want to be totally derivative, you got to be freaking James Cameron. If you're James Cameron, you can make Fern Gully in space and slap Avatar on as the name, but you spent $200 million and it looks like a $200 million movie. You're being totally derivative, and it looks like a fan film, a good fan film. But those guys aren't actors. Then so you have to be able to know when you've hit that level and when you haven't hit that level.
Right.
If you don't hit that level, you're not going to be.
It's no different. I will tell you that I know. See, making independent film for me is a little different from the normal independent filmmaker. I mean, I started in the business. I mean, I did, I worked with Drew Barrymore, and I did Highlander, the TV series. And, you do all these things. And so you meet people and you get to know people. And so I can call on those things that a lot of people can't. So I have the benefit of kind of like delving into both worlds. But what I learned from that is what we consider to be a name and what somebody in another country considers to be a name are two different things. Yeah. And so a lot of times when you're going, I'm going to get this guy because he's going to appeal to so-and-so. Well, a lot of times I'll get an actor and somebody goes, God, that guy's a 1980 actor. Like, tremendous actors out there. Let's see, Christopher Atkins from Blue Lagoon.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Now, so I used him in a couple of my films early on because good friends, things like that. But the thing is here people go, oh, I remember him from that or this. They're very limited. But in other countries, they treat him like he's Burt Reynolds. you know.
Wow.
And so I always tell people, try and saturate your film with an actor that's popular here, an actor that's popular in another country, so on and so forth, and therefore you cross all the T's and dot the I's. And most people just think about how it affects them or their fans themselves. Like, I like that guy. But, like Malcolm McDowell or whatever, his name alone, like if you ask any of our younger audiences today, Malcolm McDowell, they'd go, who? Right?
Right.
And it's not because he's not a good actor. It's because they're not as in touch with his work, right? If they saw his work, they'd probably appreciate it, but they haven't seen it. And so if you're basing the success of a movie on that name, you're wrong. You're automatically going to fail. And the other thing is, in the 80s, it became very popular to hire somebody like a Malcolm McDowell to be in a movie when he was, very popular in his deal. And they would hire him for a day or 2 days, and they'd do a bit part. And he would basically be, a guy on the phone in an office talking to you in 3 scenes, and they would just cut away to him. But they'd still put his name on the poster as in starring Malcolm McDowell, when really he was a cutaway character. And so the audiences quickly became attuned to, like, is he really in it or is he not? So the distributors would say, if he's not in it for at least this long and in at least 2 different locations, I don't want their name on the poster.
Wow, interesting.
And so you'd be like, oh, so all of a sudden there's that throwaway, like, insert character became less effective, and it's almost a cheat. It's like starring so and so, and you're like, it's not.
Well, listen, I know that with Prelude to Axanar, it's very easy for me to talk to a Star Trek fan about who's in Prelude to Axanar, because they know who J.G. Hertzler is, they know who Tony Todd is, right? I
worked with Tony Todd too.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
But you say who J.G. Hertzler's name outside of Star Trek, they don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Right. And he's a magnificent actor.
Absolutely. Truly, that's not ever in question. I think a lot of people, when they hear you say, "Oh, but the audience says no," we're saying they're not great actors. They are fantastic. That's not. But
he's just not a name that's going to sell. J.J. Hertzler's not going to sell to an audience that doesn't know Star Trek. That doesn't mean he's not amazing, but you have to know the audience you're pitching to, right? And when I cast Prelude, I didn't cast Prelude based on names. I cast Prelude based on, I have these characters and I need a person, and it was very intentional casting. But I don't, I know that I see lots of movies, especially people who maybe are on this lower end, then they'll cast a movie based on, maybe it's just who they know. Oh, well, I know I can get to all these actors. Well, that doesn't mean they're right for your movie. And if you just put
and another thing is, you're absolutely right, but sometimes they're too right for your movie. Like, you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to do a movie about, I don't know, let's say we're going to do a movie about Zeus, and let's hire Kevin Sorbo. Well, he played Hercules, you know what I'm saying? Right. It's just a throwaway. It's like they're just too connected to it. And I think that's what can make a person kind of like faded. Like, you can't remember, like Steven Seagal, for instance, how many movies has he done? I mean, a ton, right? But name the characters, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just Steven Seagal, because he basically just rehashes his same self over and over again. So, but if you put him in a science fiction or something, weird where he didn't fight, people would go like, oh, that was a unique casting, because they cast somebody who is doing something that we didn't expect from them. But if they're just doing the same old, it's like, ugh. It's bad news.
I'm just reading through the comments and.
I can't see them.
Oh, you can't see the comments?
No, that's okay.
Michael Weir says, "What I don't understand why Alec hates Bill. Bill who? Who do I hate? What Bill? I don't even know Bill. Bill Shatner. I don't hate Bill Shatner. I don't know who you say." Dale Simpson says Casey Ryback was Steven Seagal's best character. Yeah, it was like his only really good films. Right?
Yeah, those were good characters. But that's because they also surrounded himself with the other good actors who really pulled it together. And there's quite a few of them like that. Like, hey, I was on the set of On Deadly Ground. I remember. I mean, I've been there, and so you go into these worlds where they think just the action is what's going to sell it, But when you have a Michael Caine with Fire Down Below, or Tommy Lee Jones, or whoever, you're starting to surround with people that are like, wow, that's excellent. That's just good for everybody, Well,
also it minimizes, right? Those movies also that's at a time when Steven Seagal wasn't like a caricature of himself.
Right.
I think at this point, Steven Seagal is like so overplayed and so exposed in reality that it's hard to take him seriously.
What happens is, like, when he did Above the Law, that became a very iconic movie in the martial arts world, and everybody rushed out to do Aikido because they thought, oh, that's what Aikido is, and then they went in and found out, oh, it's not that violent. And I think that, so it didn't, like the ninja boom lasted for 10 years because of the ninja movies. I think the Aikido boom lasted like a year because people realized that's not what it is, right? It was kind of like a hybrid of the energy, like used in a more excessive thing. But Steven Seagal showed such great skill and elegance, and we hadn't seen that before, so it really drove him up. And so opportunities oftentimes delivers a lot to someone fast. And so as disciplined as he is and as skilled as he is, I mean, let's face it, Seagal or Von Damme or any of those guys, they got such notoriety so fast that you can't help but just like keep doing the same thing. If the audience wants it, let's do it. And so inevitably you're going to burn out. And not only for your as a character, but as to your audience,
Which is
then after that,
which is where the Expendables comes in, right?
Yeah.
Right. They did a great job of incorporating all these people.
That's exactly smart, and I thought the idea was pretty slick. And a lot of those people still had great careers going while it was happening, which was weird.
Yeah, no,
Jet Li,
Right. It kind of became it kind of became like a huge Hollywood in joke, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of didn't take themselves seriously.
Well,
but they took themselves seriously.
Yeah, what's really funny about it is I was in my office at the Lowe's in Santa Monica, the first year before even the first one had come out, and so my office was on the 5th floor, which is a pretty predominant floor, and all of a sudden here comes Dolph Lundgren walking around the corner, and then Stallone and so on and so forth, and they're going into an office, and that was when those first deals were set up to make that first movie.
Wow.
And I thought that was quite cool. I mean, even though to the normal person may not seem like a big deal, but you're watching history being made where they're bringing together all these people who normally don't want to have anybody outshine them. And so their movies are like, it's me and I'm the star, I'm the hero. And so you get like a whole movie of heroes. Everybody wants their screen time. It's kind of like Avengers. I mean, they're all now competing for space, and you have to find a way to strategically deliver that so the audience is going to be satisfied. Whereas like when they put Chuck Norris in there and he pops in for just a second, you're kind of let down. You're like, I want to watch Chuck Norris through half the movie. But it was
funny. It was funny the way they did it was really, I mean, and this was the brilliance of, they didn't take themselves seriously. So they played up everyone's little, every little thing, moment. And him being Lone Wolf McQuade type, totally go blow up the tank by himself. Yeah, that. So you were like, that's cute, right?
Sure.
Which is what I think was the strength of those movies.
So they were.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks so much. I'm really excited, but it was great having you out at the shoot in October. I'm looking forward to working with you more. We will figure out the whole financing thing with our wonderful team of people and fans and get this moving. And I think it'll just be a wonderful project that I'm just excited because we have so many great fans who are so interested in more. They're like, more, Alec, what's next? What's the next project? Well, if we can say here, let's help Mark out. This is his project. Let's bring him into the Aries Studios family and support him and do everything for him, because I think ultimately it's like life. The more you give, the more you receive. Right. Yeah.
Success breeds success. That's it. We just have to create energy and let that creative flow just keep going. I mean, if we don't, and I think sometimes it's good to step outside the box for a minute, maybe a non-Star Trek dynamic. And then when you come back with a fresh view, fresh perspective.
Yeah. Well, we're also going to do an Orville fan film later on this year.
Can't go wrong with that.
I know we love Orville. We do.
So do I.
All
Can't
this,
get enough.
And it's all, they're all great properties. And so listen, my friend, thank you so much. It's great having you here.
Bet.
I'm so excited to continue to work with you. Thank you for bringing James Liu into our lives, because he's an amazing person as well.
He sure is.
And I'm so excited to have him on board as Tanaka. And we will see you again. You're always welcome here on the show. And just thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, pal. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. We will be back tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock with Axanar, the weekend brunch with Axanar, right? This is a boom, boom. There you go. That's tomorrow at 11 o'clock. All right. And then tomorrow at 9 o'clock, boom, boom. Two geek girls, followed at 10 o'clock by boom, boom, Axanar After Dark. So that's your schedule for tomorrow. 3 hours of live streaming. We'll see what Trey wants to do. If Trey wants to do something with Axanar Comics, but as always, thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone. Oh, Kilroy's Odessa Woodworking is here again. It's great to see you guys. Oh, lots of stuff to talk about. I've got all the bags back. We'll talk about this tomorrow. There you go, folks. The Axanar backpacks are here. I'm totally excited about them. We got the first of them printed. Well, look at that. How gorgeous is that, huh? All right. Yeah. So we'll talk about all that. Challenge coins, books, boom, boom. All the cool swag we got going. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Yeah, exactly. That was our subliminal. That was subliminal messaging to you. And Brian Bennett's. There you go. Brian Bennett's shipped out your package today. You will be excited about that because lots of goodies in your mystery box. Yes, tomorrow, all day tomorrow, it is Axanar. We got to do like a 24-hour marathon. How awesome would that be? We will do that. I'll get Trey involved, and Trey and I, and we got to get a couple of us involved doing a like nonstop 24-hour live stream marathon. Maybe we'll do that next weekend. Love you guys. Thank you all. We will see you tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Lots of goodies going to happen tomorrow morning. We will have the weekend Axanar Double Secret Mystery Box. We will be going over the bags. We got challenge coins. I got so much stuff to show you guys. You're going to love it. Michael Weir, I keep forgetting about Plex, but I'm going to get to you. What about my box? I don't know what box you got. Oh, yeah, it was shipped out. I shipped out your bag today, too. I packed the bags tonight. Love you all, Axafam. As Silver Bullet says, yeah, we love you all. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to he's gone. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. I'm going to go game now. I think I earned it. I got 3 hours of sleep, so I'm not going to sleep anytime soon. So we'll take care. See you guys tomorrow. And as always, live long and prosper. Cheers, everyone.